Boom, welcome back to Barefoot Cacique. I'm actually going to throw the in there today because last one was lazy. It was lazy because we just threw it out there. We had to get the information out. We had to stick to our guns because this is what we're doing in 2025. We're committing to ourselves and we're going to follow through on the shit that we say we're going to do. So I just had to put that one out there last time. No edits, real raw, no cuts, no drop-ins, nothing. So today is going to be the day where we're actually going to sit here and break all of that down. So you could actually put some of this information that I'm using, or that I'm giving you to use. So we're going to start with the top 3 motor clubs that you should sign up with to be able to utilize all the benefits of working for yourself and owning your own business. So the first one is going to be Urgently. So I'll drop in the logo here so you could hop on the Schmoogler and find them so you could apply to be one of their providers. So you have Urgently, Agiro, which is Swoops, or Agiro and Swoop. They're like one company now. I believe Swoop was a separate company and Agiro bought them out. So now if you are a partner with Agiro, they send your jobs out through Swoop. So from what I understand, because I kind of got into the whole game during that whole like merger situation, I believe they just kind of like didn't have this app the way that Swoop had it, and they just kind of integrated their people into the Swoop app. So Agiro and Swoop is kind of the same thing. And then you have Honk. So those are the 3 main players in the roadside assistance game and towing for motor clubs as well. So it's not just roadside assistance, but they also offer towing. So that's actually how I became familiar with them, was through the towing program. But anyway, so they all service different brands, if you will. So for example, Urgently is BMW, Jaguar, Land Rover, Porsche, and Uber as well, and several other things. Agiro is Subaru, Mercedes, Honda, Lyft, Audi, and then apparently they have Ford. I've never gotten a Ford job through Agiro. Interesting. We have to follow up. Why is that, Agiro? Why is that, Swoop? Why have I never gotten a Ford job? Hello, I'm out here repping. Like, help me out, help a brother out. So we'll get into that. I'm gonna put a pin in that to follow back up with that. I don't know what's going on, but anyway, back on track. And then you also have Honk, which is basically, Honk is the one that most of the like big name insurance companies go through for their roadside. So like Geico, Progressive, Liberty Mutual, State Farm, all those fun guys, USAA, all of their roadside assistance goes through Honk. So for example, like if you have a BMW and you press the little SOS button, when you press that SOS button, it'll eventually like send you over to BMW roadside assistance, and they'll set up all of the information about where you are, if you need a tow, if you need a tire change, jump start, whatever it is that you need. They're going to get all that information together, and then you'll eventually get like a link sent to your phone or through your app, and it'll say at the bottom like powered by Urgently. So whoever's going to be showing up is logged in through that Urgently provider app to help you out. So the same thing goes for basically all the other providers as well. The only difference is like Honk, for example, like when you like if you don't have this little SOS button, or it doesn't function, or you no longer have like that subscription, when you call your insurance, they're going to do the same thing. Like you'll think that Geico has their own roadside people, which also it is an option if you wanted to be a provider directly for like State Farm or for Geico. You could go on their website and request to be a provider in their area. So it's like almost the same process of signing up at one of these motor clubs, but I've never had one of those like signing up directly with insurance companies like reach back out to me and be like, yes, we'll take you on. Usually they're like, oh, there's no need for providers in your area, and but they'll put you on a waiting list, which now that I found out that basically they all go through Honk, makes sense why they kind of like give you the stiff arm, because they probably don't have the internal capacity to deal with the ins and outs of dealing with all of these providers. So they just farm out the work to people like Honk. So now that you kind of have like an overview of like who are utilizing these 3 companies, basically how do you get signed up with them? So that's why I'm putting the logos in here, so you could see when you get on Google and you look up Urgently, Agiro, Swoop, Honk, whatever, and you like are trying to find them, you know which ones to look up, because there's other stuff out there that's like not related. So look for that logo and kind of follow the thing. You'll, on any of their homepages, when you get to their homepages and you scroll through it, or even if you type in like the search bar, it'll tell you, you can either search how to become a provider, or you'll see a link or a tab that says providers or provider logins or like service provider applications. So you'll follow those prompts to become a provider with them. So basically what you'll need is obviously like an LLC. So most people watching this are kind of familiar with how to start your own business. So you have to like create an LLC. For example, in the state of Florida, you have to go to SunBiz, which is Florida's business portal, and check to see if that company name that you want to go with is even available, or if there's other companies that have that same name. Because essentially the IRS, if you go and you sign up for an EIN number, they don't care. You could come up with, you could be like Abercrombie and Finch, and the IRS will be like, great, here's your EIN number. But then when you go to register with your state, it'll be more of an issue, because they're like, well, we can't grant you like the licensing or whatever. We can't like actually like process your paperwork, because this is already an active and up and running company. So always make sure you check with your state first before you get an EIN, which I don't know, some people say it's do it the other way. I think that's the best way. Check with your state first, then get the EIN. But anyway, so once you have a business and you have an EIN number, because you'll need that for any of these applications, you'll go in, you'll fill out their application. They'll ask for your EIN, your name, your social security number. Most times they'll ask for like who the providers are going to be. So if it's going to be yourself and somebody else, or you have like a slew of people in your team, all your cousins are ready to do roadside, like they'll ask for everyone's information so they can do background checks and make sure they're not sending out murderers to help people off the side of the highway in the middle of the night. So you'll need that. And then all of that is pretty straightforward. And kind of in the last video, I touched on the topic of how to get the insurance requirements that you'll need to actually get approved for these. So before you even have the insurance policies, they'll allow you to sign up as a provider for all three of those companies will allow you to sign up as a provider. The last step is for them to like let you go live on their app and start receiving jobs, would be for you to get a COI for them, which is the certificate of insurance that names either urgently, a Giro, or honk as a policy holder for your commercial insurance policy. So you could kind of save that for the end, and in a way you kind of want to gather all of the requirements that all three of those companies are going to be requiring for you to have, for you to become a provider with any of them. Because then what you could do is take all three of those, they'll give you sample COIs, and I'll kind of like pop that in here too. They'll give you a COI that tells you, you know, like they'll come up with a name, and then they'll have like all of the minimums that you'll need for each one of the categories for like on-hook insurance, liability, garage insurance, all the other facets that they want to have you covered. You could give all three of them to your insurance agent at once, so they could create a policy for you that covers you on all the bases for all three of them, because all three of them have different coverages, which was a whole back and forth when I was getting my commercial insurance. Was one of them wanted one thing, another one wanted something else, and then the scopes were different. So you kind of have to like, you know, fine tune it for it to work for all of the people you're going to be working with. So that's basically the long short of how that goes. And I briefly wanted to also get into the pros and cons of all three of these providers. So starting off with Urgently, which was the first provider I ever worked with, and I would say I've done the bulk of my jobs that I've ever gotten for roadside, whether it be towing or actual just like minor road services, which is like flat tires, lockouts, jump starts, all that fun stuff, fuel deliveries, was all through Urgently. And of course, you know, it was the first the first motor club that I was introduced to. So I thought they were great. And I was like, you know, I'm getting paid. For example, the very first tow I did with Urgently was going from West Palm Beach to Port St. Lucie, or actually it was in reverse. I was in West Palm Beach, but the car was in Port St. Lucie coming back down to West Palm Beach. And it happened to be in the middle of the night, and I believe that the car had been there since like 3 o'clock in the afternoon. And the person who was like introducing me and putting me onto the whole like towing industry basically kind of like handpicked this job and was like, listen, you're gonna go do this. Here's this car, you're gonna strap it up, you're gonna bring it back here and take it, and we'll take it from there. And I'm like, okay, like I got woken up from my sleep in the middle of the night and got tossed some tow truck keys and said, here, have at it. And I'm like, oh God, this is crazy. So I went up there, I did it. I figured out how to strap up the car because I had been watching YouTube videos and things like that for like months before this, to kind of like, because I knew I was going to be getting into the industry. So I wanted to make sure that I wasn't like completely wet behind the ears and I knew a thing or two. So I went up there, did the first tow, and at this time I'm not asking how much it is, how much I'm getting paid, anything. I was just like, whatever, I'll do it just because I was excited to get started. So the next day when I finally got the payment, and I'm like listening to like how to request the payment and how to do all the add-on services, because we had to use dollies, there was snatch blocks, there was the customer wasn't with the vehicle, they literally abandoned it on the side of the road, so I had to do a lockout service on the vehicle to actually get in it, to put in a neutral override and all this other stuff. And then also it was off like in a ditch, essentially. Like it wasn't even on like the side of the road, it was like almost in a ditch. So there was I didn't know it at the time, but that was actually an add-on. So at the end of adding up all of the things that came along with it, the in-route mileage, the storage, everything, I ended up getting paid $700 to drive for 2 hours, to like go up to Port St. Lucie. I don't know exactly how many miles that is. I think it's maybe like 60, 70 miles, maybe 80 tops in each direction, to go do this job. I ended up getting paid $700 from it. And I was just like mind blown. And I'm like, what have I been doing? Like, I made $700 in a few hours. It's crazy. Like, why haven't I been towing my whole life? So needless to say, I was very pleased with Urgently because of that whole situation. And then I just, the work kept coming and I kept seeing great numbers like that. So we just kept it going. But when I did have to pivot to just doing roadside, I started, it started becoming more clear to me the everyman's kind of perspective of like how this app works. Because when I was towing, I was kind of in a sector where it was like we were known to be the guys who could get cars out of like parking garages that nobody else could access, or we would go way out of our jurisdiction to go and get vehicles where other companies were like, it's not 10 minutes down the road, I'm not doing it, kind of thing. So like we were the guys who always made shit happen. So I would get really good jobs as a tow truck driver. But when I started doing roadside, like I noticed like the local jobs and things like that. For example, the way they pay for minor road services is if you have a job that's within your like a 30-mile radius of your like your facility where your business is registered, anything within a 30-mile radius of where you are, whether it's a jump start, a fuel delivery, a tire change, lockout, it's all $28. Like they're only going to pay you $28 to go within your 30-mile radius, do the job, and that's it. So there's add-ons that you could add on, like your, if you had to pay for tolls, if it's a fuel delivery, the gas that you had to purchase for the customer that you're delivering it to, obviously you could add on. But yeah, so it kind of like made it not worth even doing the local jobs. So what I started doing when I first pivoted to roadside was I would purposely go like 60, 70 miles away from my home base. So this way the jobs that I'm getting are automatic in-route jobs. So I'm like way out of my market. Well, not out of my market, but I'm way out of my like 30-mile bubble. So this way I could automatically take a $28 job and add 30 miles of in-route mileage. And now we're at like almost a $60 job. So, you get a couple of those in a day and you did all right. So that was one thing that I noticed about Urgently. And I was just like, it wasn't my favorite. So when I started working with Ajiro and Honk as well, I realized that Urgently are some of the grimiest people in this game. So like they will give you the bare minimum. Like Urgently is really out here giving people the bare minimum. And I was able to work myself up to, as far as minor road services go, I was able to work myself up to number 2 in my state as far as providers, which I was like, I didn't think I was doing such a great job until like one day I really called and I was like, yo, what is going on? Like, why am I not getting more volume? Or like, why am I not seeing more jobs? Or like, what's going on? Like, how help me help you? How can I be more of service? Because I would see that, I would get a lot of customers had been waiting for other providers and they would wait for like 1 or 2 other providers and it would just never show up. And I would eventually get there and I'm just like, so if I'm the one who's actually showing up for all these people, like, why am I not getting like first dibs? And what is going on? So they ended up letting me know, you know what, actually you're number 2 in the entire state that you work out of. You are number 2 as far as roadside goes. But the other people who have, and I'm like, all right, well, that's cool that I'm number 2, but like, why am I not number 1? What can I do to be number 1? I ended up finding out that there's another company that I actually had also signed up for roadside assistance with, and I believe it's called Auto Rescue. So I think I saw like an ad on like Instagram or something. So I was like, oh yeah, I'm gonna sign up. And they were like talking about, oh yeah, you can make X, Y, and Z a day. So I signed up for it. And come to find out, after I got like enrolled, I sent them my driver's license and everything, and they started sending me jobs. I'm seeing the same jobs from Urgently, but for like $10, $15. A $10 tire change? So I'm gonna hop in my Jeep at the time. I'm gonna hop in my Jeep and drive all the way to wherever the hell for $10, $15 for a tire change is crazy work. Like, that's crazy. Like, why? For that, I might as well just do Uber. Like, why would I do that? That's crazy. So they have that number 1 hold on the state, apparently, because they've acquired a pool of other roadside providers who kind of like work under them. It'd be the same thing as me hiring 20 of you to come work as one of my roadside providers, but instead of me paying you the $28, which was already a shame, instead of me paying you those measly $28 for the job, I'm gonna give you like a third of that, which is you'd have to do like 50 jobs a day to even be able to like live off of it. It didn't make any sense because even then, like, it's not something you could really work into like part-time, because it's like they come up as they just come up when they feel like giving them to you. You can't like plan like, I'm only going to take the jobs through this time and this time. Like, it's just crazy. So that's another reason why I'm just like, you know what, Urgently could really kick one, because I'm not going to sit up and sit here and like make up a business structure that's going to be not lucrative for anyone but me. And then even then, like, how lucrative is it really going to be for you with the margins being what they are? I don't know. I just think it's very weird. But more power to these auto rescue people, whoever they are. Like, I'm glad you love it. You guys do a good job. Keep going. But yeah, so that's why I'm like, and I think I've said this a few times already. Urgently, me and them were really like not here. As far as Ajiro and Honk go, Ajiro and Swoop, and I'll be honest, the reason why I even tried out Ajiro again in Honk, after I worked with them, I think I did like 1 or 2 jobs, and I was like, screw this. And like my insurance had lapsed at the time, and then I never like, when I got the new policy, I never like re-enlisted with them because I just didn't have a good experience the first few times I worked with them. But this guy named Louise at Tow Universe is another YouTuber who like specializes in like towing. He had mentioned that like they actually approached him at one of the tow shows and told him like, hey, like, we've been watching your videos and we actually implemented a lot of the stuff that you said, and like we've made the app better. And like he went through like the whole spiel that they gave him about how they made it better. So I said, you know what, let me sign up. And I did sign up, and you know what, he wasn't lying. They really like chef's kiss Ajiro and Swoop. Like I love y'all, I really do. Because see, the difference with Ajiro and Swoop is they pay you. For example, I have it in my phone. I'll put it up here, you know, so we got the extra space. But from what I recall, I believe it was 37 miles. It was like 37 miles away from where I was for a flat tire change. I got paid $85. I was like, yeah, that's fucking great. Because for that same, I did the math on it. For me to make that same amount with Urgently, I would essentially have had to go like 70 or like 50 something miles. No, I'd have to do a whole total of like 70 miles distance from where I was, plus the job, not including the coming back, just to even make $85 with them. You'd have to do like 4 jobs with Urgently to make $85. So it'd be like ridiculous, or drive for an hour. And it's just like, and then at that point too, this is another thing with Urgently is like, if you're gonna go more than 30 miles out of your designated area, you'd have to wait an extra 2 to 4 business days for them to approve this mileage that was more than 30 miles out of your designated 30-mile zone, and it's just like, well, obviously if you gave me the job, I did the job, I sent the pictures of the job, why am I waiting 4 days for you to approve something that obviously was taken care of? Like, the customer confirmed, they pressed yes, or you called them to follow up that the job was done, it was done. So it's just like they're not thinking about the providers first. They kind of don't care about you. So it's just like they honestly really don't even care about the customers, it seems, because of the way that it's set up. They will let customers sit there and wait for like 4 other providers who are notoriously not going to show up for these customers. But it's a whole nother song and dance. But this is why we love Agero and Swoop, because they will compensate you for your time and effort. And not only for your time and effort, I think another thing that's great about Agero and Swoop is, because this tends to be the thing, especially since, like, for example, we're talking about minor road services, which is roadside assistance, which is tire changes, lockouts, jump starts, fuel deliveries. For those minor road services, the majority of the tow truck companies don't want to do that. They're not going to go out of their way to go do even like an $85 tire change somewhere that's not that far away. They're like, why would I go and do this job that's $85 when I could just tow a car maybe 4 or 5 miles and get paid $150, $250 or more, depending on what's going on. If it's a car accident, flat tire, they drove off the road, they're down in a ditch. You don't even have to leave your town. You can make $1,000 and like off of one job as a tow truck driver. So it makes sense that they don't want to come out to these spots. But a lot of the times what will happen is a tow truck company will take on a minor road service job and they will add it to their list of jobs that are going to get done. And then they just never show up for the customer, which I don't understand. If it's obviously like low on the totem pole for you, like, just don't take the job at all and let the guys who do minor road services, like, take care of these customers. So a lot of the times customers I'll get there and they'll still, regardless of all 3 of these, I'll get there and they'll be like, oh, you're like the 3rd, 4th person I've been waiting on. Oh, I'm so glad you finally showed up. Or somebody finally showed up, because nobody else would even call. Sometimes the minute I call when I get the job, I'm like, hey, this is Ethan, roadside assistance. I'll be there X amount of time. They're like, oh my God, thank you so much. Oh my God, like nobody, all the other people that were supposed to come, they never even called, or we called them and they don't even pick up, or their phone number doesn't work. So for example, Agero has taken note of that, and I've actually had them reach out to me and tell me, hey, so can you help us out with a tow? Meanwhile, urgently we'll also do this. They'll like call if they can't find a provider, but it's like you kind of have to know, and you kind of have to fight with them to get any extra money added on. Agero will immediately tell you, hey, we really need to help this customer. They've been waiting down the side of the highway. We could offer you an extra $40 to add on to your, let's say it was like a $30 job. All right, already at 70, like, to do a tire change that you would have done for $30 anyway. That's pretty good. So they'll immediately add that on, and already the pricing will be more fair. You won't even have to go out of your 30-mile jurisdiction. I don't know how their software works, but I guess it takes into consideration the traffic patterns, where it's at, if it's on the side of like a turnpike, the side of a highway, how far it is from where you are, and how far that job would be from your home base, because they'll take into consideration that your home base might be here, you're up here, but the job is down here. So we'll pay you a little more because you're going to be coming all the way down here, but on the backside you're not going that far back home. So it'll vary. But let's say your main base is here, you're here, the job is all the way up here. That'll be way more lucrative, because you're going to go way up there and come back past where you're already at to get back to your home base. So they're very fair with the pricing, which I appreciate. We clap it up for them, and more people need to be like you. We love you guys over at Agero and Swoop. But anyway, so that's that. And then Honk is also very much like Agero when it comes with their pricing. They're very fair, I would say. And also I've noticed that like Honk's minimum payment, if it's like right down the street from you and it's like right in your town, the minimum payment's like $38 versus where Agero is like $28. I mean, not Agero, Urgently is $28. So like, for example, like Urgently does have jobs that they'll pay you base rate $38 for, but that's only if it's Jaguar, Land Rover. So Jaguar, Land Rover, and BMW. So if Urgently gives you anything from those 3 luxury brands, they'll pay you the extra $10, but everything else is a fight, apparently. Versus like Honk, I'm like iffy with Honk, because Honk, apparently they say, I've read my little metrics, I'm like great as far as like customer appreciation, showing up on time, acceptance rate, but they will try their darndest to give the job to anybody else other than you, apparently, with Honk. So I don't know what's going on with them, but like you could be maybe 15 minutes away from a job, and they will, you'll put in the request like, yes, I could be there in 15 minutes. And then it'll search and search and search and search. And it'll take a good like 5 or 6 minutes that it'll keep looking, because I guess they'll keep trying to find other providers that, even though you're 15 minutes away, they'll find somebody who's like 10 minutes away or something. It's very odd. So I don't know. It's like a hit or miss with Honk. Like, I would say out of the jobs that they offer, maybe I would say I get about like maybe like 30% of the jobs that they actually offer me. I like put in a request and they usually give it to somebody else. And it's just like, hey. And at this point, and it all depends on your market too, because I would just say just within the state of Florida alone, I've kind of bounced around the state of Florida. So I've done this in different parts of the state, and I know that there's certain areas where Honk will be way better and the Ajiro will be a little bit less. And Urgently I'll get more jobs through Urgently, or I'll get more jobs offers through Urgently. So it all kind of like depends where you're at. That's why I'm giving you all three, because depending on where you are, you might have a separate experience. But there's also like little tidbits to know that could be helpful, like how do they pay you? So I think that is a big thing to take into, not even to take into consideration, because you should work with all three of them anyway, but just to be aware of, because they all don't pay the same rates and they also don't pay out the same way. For example, Urgently will pay you with a virtual credit card, where they'll actually email a credit card number to your inbox in your email, and you could run that credit card through your credit card processing system. So then that's also something else that you need to be aware of, that you're definitely going to need a business bank account and a card processing software, whether that's through QuickBooks or Square or through your bank, and they offer credit card processing. You're going to need that. So I generally would suggest, especially if like you're a new business and you don't already have like a business banking relationship, you're probably going to be better off with like a Square or or a QuickBooks card processor, or whatever the other ones else that are out there, like Toast I think is another one. You'd probably be better off with those, because you could immediately sign up and start using and start processing cards. And as far as like the card processing rates, the rates are almost the same as the banks. They're not off by much. And generally, like the banks, you'll either have to put like a deposit down for the card processing equipment, like a credit card runner, or like to like swipe the card or whatever. They'll charge you like $500 for a credit card processor, where these apps like Square and Toast and QuickBooks, you don't have to do anything. The minute you download the app and you create an account with them, you could just start processing cards for a fee. But I would say Square is one of the best card processors. They give the best like perks to go along with processing your cards with them. They also are very good with helping build your business credit profile to a degree, because actually once you've reached a certain amount of like cards processed, you'll start becoming eligible for like small business loans. And I think they range from anywhere from like $300 up to like $100,000. So I like Square, so I would say, hey, try it out if you haven't. But yeah, so they all pay out differently. So Urgently is credit cards, and usually depending on the job, if it's less than $150, I believe, you would get a card in 24 hours of the time that you completed the card. They'll email it to your to your email account. And if it's over that amount of $150, then I believe it's between like 2 to 3 business days. Ajiro, on the other hand, does direct deposit. So I don't know if credit cards are a option if you are enrolled with them. So there is a way to become an out-of-network provider, which hang on, you're gonna get some on that one. So there's a way to become an out-of-network provider with them, and I believe if you're out of network, then you can get credit card payments with them. But if you're not out of network and you are registered with them and you're a registered provider with a contract, then you get paid on Tuesdays and Thursdays. So they release the direct deposit payments from Tuesdays and Thursdays, but it doesn't show up into your bank account until the following day, or within 2 business days at the most, depending on what bank you're banking with, and it's like getting direct deposited into. So that's something else to consider. Now, Honk is also another one that provides virtual credit cards, but they send them the same day that you complete the job. So like, let's say you complete a job with Honk I guess the automated system will tell you within 24 hours, but generally, like, the minute you finish the job, you have to call in with Honk to actually submit the request for the credit card approval. I mean, for the credit card. And then once they send it to you, it usually takes about like an hour or two, and they'll show up in your email. You can process it. Now you got your money. But they're all like, especially aside from like that being the way that you get paid with them, Honk is so hard to get somebody on the line to like help you if you have an issue with your job, or like if there's something going on with the PO. Like, let's say you completed the job and you requested the card, but it still hasn't showed up, and you're here like 2 days later or whatever. It's kind of like pulling teeth with them. It's like hit or miss. Like, it's like a 50-50. Sometimes somebody will like help you out real quick, like, oh yeah, no worries, here, I'm gonna fix it for you, I'll send it to you right away. Or you'll have other people, they'll drag it out and they're like, no, you have to log into this website and fill out this form and wait 48 to 72 hours. And you're just like sometimes they make it like you're really jumping through hoops. A Giro, I feel like a Giro will do the most to just make it happen for you. Like, they'll make it work, because it's not like they're gonna send you a credit card right now today anyway. There's like a string of processes that everything goes through before it gets released to you. So they'll make sure that they, get this little kink straightened out, so this way everything can keep moving down the line through all the people and departments that it needs to, so you could get paid and everything ends up being fine. So I definitely like the way that Agiro handles customer and provider relations way better. And then urgently, they do whatever they want, depending on who you speak to and who you know and who you're cool with. You could get anything or nothing done, depending on how much you are favored there. Apparently, those call centers, they all kind of like, every company has like a call center log where people who are phone rep or like call center reps, they'll kind of be able to chat with each other and their supervisors or whatever. But just because I actually know several people that work at Urgently, I know that there is like a unspoken or spoken in their little internal chat understanding of like, okay, this provider, we like them, we have a deal with them, we kind of like, you scratch my elbow, I scratch your elbow, and they kind of like, they'll do certain favors for certain people. And as far as favors, like nothing crazy, but they'll like, for example, instead of you having to wait however long for a credit card to show up for like a minor road service, like if they like you, you could call Urgently sometimes and they'll send you your payment right then and there. Like, they'll just send it right to your email. Like, oh, okay, they see the pictures are all there, everything's fine. Yeah, they'll send it. But then there'll be other times where they'll be like, no, sorry, we can't send this, you have to wait, whatever. Or there's even been cases where, like, for example, like people will do like when you need like a GOA, which is gone on arrival. So for example, if you get one of these jobs and you show up and the person is gone, the car isn't there because either the person changed the tire themselves, their neighbor came and helped out, somebody gave them a jump start, somebody went and walked and got them gas before you even got there, but you're still in your estimated time of arrival, you're not late, they just happen to not need you anymore and nobody let you know. So that's going to be called a GOA, gone on arrival. So generally when those happen, you're supposed to still get some type of payment. So for Urgently, I know when it's like minor road services, you get like a $20 GOA if they end up not showing up. A Giro, if it's minor road services, you get like a $25 GOA if they're not there when you show up. And Honk, who knows with Honk, I don't even know. But essentially, like with Urgently, what I've noticed is like there'll be certain times where, depending on who picks up the phone or who's handling the case number for this particular job, if they just, number one, don't understand what the concept of what's happening, because some of these people at the call centers have no idea what any of these services really are that are being provided and all the technical terms, and like, oh, well, like we got there, but they didn't have a spare tire, they had an inflatable one, and the air compressor was like the nozzle for the air compressor is broken. They're like, what? Oh, so you didn't do it? Okay, never mind, we're canceling the job, we're not giving you a GOA. And you're like, no, I was there, I tried, and I couldn't do it because whatever mechanical equipment was like not working. They had like a faulty flat, they didn't have a flat tire, like a spare tire, what have you. There's like extenuating circumstances, and I feel like Urgently will kind of like, depending on who you speak to, they'll just try to like play you out of your little $20 or whatever. Meanwhile, it's not really their call. So there's been several times where something stupid like that has happened, and I've had to call back 2 or 3 times to get somebody on the phone who understands and can conceptualize what's going on here for me to get like some measly like $20 GOA payment that like I'm entitled to because I drove and spent $20 of my gas to show up there, so you're gonna pay me. So I just think that's weird that there's like this like they get to kind of like make the calls at the call center and urgently where they kind of deem who's worthy to receive certain payments and who's not. So I think that's interesting, but I find that the more interesting one out of all of these is going to be Towbooks. So Towbooks is like the daddy of motor clubs. So essentially, I believe all of the motor clubs you're able to tie into the Towbooks app, which is basically like I don't know what would be a good way to describe that. Like, what's a conglomeration of all of it? So kind of it's like kind of like Google Suites of towing. So it's like you got your docs and your Excel and Word and the search and the map and everything all like in one home. So like Towbooks is its own company, and they're not a motor club. They are like a cloud-based software company that takes all of these motor club jobs and offers and information and all, even the payments now. You could also like get paid directly through your like Towbooks app. So you could, if you've been signed up for all of these motor clubs, or even if you're signed up for one of these motor clubs, you can get yourself a Towbooks app, link your Towbooks to the one or more motor clubs you work with, and then you'll start getting jobs offered to you all in one place. So you could get a urgently, a honk, a swoop job all offered to you right through the Towbooks app, so you don't have to be surfing between 3 different apps. So it's basically like if you were somebody who does like Uber Eats, DoorDash, and Instacart, and like Postmates, instead of you having like 4 apps on your phone, this is like one app that puts them all in one spot, and you get the offers for all of those jobs in that one spot. So the interesting thing that I found out from using Towbooks is you get way more job offers when you have Towbooks, because there's something about their weird favoritism algorithm that they have in the separate like companies' apps, or however it is that they offer the jobs to people, where it kind of gets not bypassed, but you'll get to see all the jobs that you weren't getting offered on. For example, like Urgently's provider app. Like when you have Towbooks, you're seeing every job come up that's in your area, not just the ones that are pinging on your app. So when I got Towbooks, I started realizing that there was something afoot. Like there's a lot of jobs I'm not seeing and whatever, because sometimes, you know, you might get a little spicy with somebody on the phone, they put a little flag on your account like, we don't like this guy, and then the right person in the right seat clicks something off on your profile, and now you're not getting any jobs for this entire like Land Rover, and you're not getting any jobs from this. So this is why we have to follow up. Why am I not getting any Ford jobs? What's going on with that? I love Ford. Anyway, yeah, so that's why I think Towbooks is honestly better, not only because of that, because also when you have Towbooks, aside from seeing all of the other job offers that are potentially out there that you could bid on and put an ETA estimate towards, you're also able to get access to out-of-network offers. So for example, where like a Giro, the first time I did a job for a Giro, I wasn't even signed up with a Giro as like a provider. Once you've had Towbooks, like say like you signed up with Urgently and you downloaded Towbooks, and you've had this activity within Towbooks for, I'd say like 3 months maybe, and you have good metrics where you're showing up in the estimated time of arrival, you're completing the job, customers are filling out the little survey that it gets sent to them at the completion of the job, they say you're great, so then they eventually click you over to out-of-network jobs. So now when jobs come up for Geico and Allstate and Progressive, and like I found out a Giro, like I got a job for a Giro, meanwhile I was never signed up with a Giro. So when I completed that job, I dropped off the car where it needed to be towed to. I believe it was a Hyundai, was the first one I got from a Giro. When I dropped off that Hyundai, I'm like looking at my Towbooks app, and I'm like, oh, how do I get payment for this? Because I've never worked with these people. So I found their number, gave them the PO, and they like saw that I was out of network, and they said, oh, okay, you're out of network provider, but you have this job, we see. So they just like immediately sent me an email with the payment for, I think it was like $300 something for that tow. So I was like, all right, this is awesome. So same thing happened with Honk. I also got a couple of tows through Honk, even though I wasn't signed up with them, but it was because I had the Towbooks profile and I, you know, I had a good rapport with them. So I started getting offers out of network. So the out of network jobs pay, from what it seems like to me, they pay a little bit better, and also they'll pay you right then and there because they don't have a contract with you where you're going to be having a direct deposited payment coming out on Tuesdays and Thursdays, or they don't have your email address to be sending you a VCC to through their automated system. So when you call in, they're just gonna give you your payment right there over the phone. Either they'll give you the credit card number over the phone, or they'll email it to the email address you decide to give them. So I think that that's cool, implementing Towbooks. And I would actually say that's probably one of the best things you can do if you want to take this seriously, is sign up for all three, or sign up for a few of them, or sign up for one of them, and then sign up with Towbooks. And I believe you get the first 30 days, like a free trial kind of thing. And it's like $99 a month after that. But I'm telling you, you will make that money back for sure. So yeah, once you've, you know, gotten at least one of them linked with Towbooks, you could really start seeing all the potential with the other providers and the other jobs that start coming up. So I hope that paints a little more of a picture of a direction that you could kind of go in with this field of roadside assistance and working with motor clubs. So if you have any questions about some of the information I give you, questions, comments, concern, more topics of, like, you know, you want me to focus on one of those companies and like the pros and the cons of like what the processes are and things of that nature, feel free to let me know in the comments. Like, subscribe, all that fun stuff. Love y'all for sticking around and learning some stuff today about how we could get to this bag in 2025. I love y'all. Have a good one.